Hi, welcome again to a talk called The God Solution. I'm Micah Bell. I want to share some things that I think are very important that seem to be either ignored or greatly unbelieved, I guess you would say. When I felt the call into the ministry years ago, many years ago now, I was 18 years of age, having no idea what all that meant, but spending some years in a denominational church, ordained as such, and finally deciding that this was not a New Testament experience. And finally, after all kinds of issues that were ridiculous, actually, I gave it up and left. And after 10 or 12 years out of the ministry and out of the church also, I quit the church. I gave up on it. I had an encounter with Jesus Christ. And after being truly born again, everything changed. And then a few weeks later, I received the baptism in the Holy Spirit, and even more changed. And then I began to realize what was missing in my early years in the ministry. So coming back into the ministry, I opened my heart, I opened my life to everything. And finally, it became apparent that the call was still on my life, regardless of what had happened. And so I was called to begin to pastor again in a church north of Dallas. And it began to grow very quickly, and it looked like we were just going to be a successful place, a place of numbers and money and all of that. So one day I was a little troubled. I went over to where we met in the auditorium and began to pray. It was a rented place. And we had about 300 people at that time. And I was walking around and praying to the Lord. This was something pretty new to me at this time. And to make it short, the Holy Spirit spoke to me. The Lord spoke to me and said, "The people here have demons." What? Now, you see, I was 40 years old at this time, and I had no clue that about demons. I read about them in the Bible, and I thought, well, that's primitive stuff. That's people in primitive places, primitive type people, but not us. We're modern, we're sophisticated, we're intelligent, we're educated, and I was. I was basically a college degree, basically had attended some time in seminary and so on and so forth. But it was so strong to me. I found it unbelievable because looking at the people, they were clean cut. They were upper middle class people. I mean, nothing seemed to fit what the Lord said to me. But I said, okay. So as I continued to pray about it, I said I better look into this, and then I began to realize that if they have demons, then perhaps I do. And so, again, a long story short, as I sat down one day privately and began to pray and say, if there's anything in me, I command you to get out. And something began to rise up in me, and I became terrified, went and looked in the mirror and realized there's something inside me. I could see it in my eyes that I never knew of after 40 years of life. Well, long story short, I went and got some ministry of what we call deliverance. And I found out that I had many, many demons inside me that came out. And after that ministry and that deliverance, I felt so different. And then again, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, this is the primary calling that I've called you to deliver my people of demons. Okay. Well, the Lord began to do mighty things, bringing people into my life and so on. But the point I want to make is that the idea of demons in people did not come from me reading a book or somebody talking to me or even somebody praying for me. It was a sovereign act of the Lord in my life. And so, like Brother Paul, who went off to Arabia after he fell off the horse and was born again and had an encounter with Jesus Christ, basically, when the Lord spoke to me, I conferred with no man. But finally, men came along in my life that were a great blessing to me, that helped mentor me on into the ministry. But again, the point I want to make is this was a direct revelation of the Lord through the Holy Spirit to me about Christians having demons. Was I a Christian at the time? Absolutely. Was I committed and baptized in the Holy Spirit? Absolutely. I was as committed as I knew how to be. After all the years of what I did to run from God and all this, I said, Lord, I'm all yours. And I have been ever since. But I had demons. And I found out after my first encounter that there were layers of these things that had to be dealt with in my life. And so the point I'm making is that almost all the problems in believers' lives, especially spirit-filled believers, has some source in demonic infestation. And I know there's many that do not believe that a Christian, a born-again Christian filled with the Holy Spirit, could have demons in them. But I know better. And that's why I continue to do this. I've been seeing this for now 42 years or more. And the many, many thousands of people that I've ministered to, Christian people, this is not for lost people. This is not for halfway committed so-called Christians. This is for people that are really serious about walking with the Lord and being committed and knowing His Word and so forth, and being used of Him, especially those in the ministry. And so I just want to share my heart that whatever you're struggling with in your walk with the Lord, whatever it might be, it could be infirmities, it could be fear, it could be lust, it could be bitterness, it could be so many things. These are some of the basics that I've dealt with all through these years. The God solution is to deal with the demons that are there in you to be cast out. Jesus made it plain. He came casting demons out of His people, the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And I could say a lot more about that, but let me say this. In Romans 7, this brother was talking about, Brother Paul was writing here, and he said, "For I know that in me," now this is a spirit-filled apostle, one of the most powerful apostles in history. He said, "I know that in me, that is in my flesh, nothing good dwells, lives there, so to speak. For the will is present with me, but how to perform what is good I do not find. For the good that I will to do, I do not do, but the evil I will not to do, that I practice. Now, if I do that I will not to do, it's no longer I who do it, but sin that dwells in me." From the book of Genesis, the Bible makes it apparent that sin is a personality. The personality of murder that wanted to get into Cain and did. And motivated him, what inspired him to kill his brother. And this is how demons work. They motivate, they inspire. They even sometimes, I've heard them talk through people, many, many times. They do all kinds of things. And I, after 40 years of life, and also being involved in psychology, being a practicing psychologist for a period of time, having no idea about demons in me, and especially in people. And it's just a fact. Now, I know there's denial. I know there's people say, "Oh, wow, who are you?" But let me tell you, I can tell you almost 100% of your problems is something that's where there's demons involved. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 100. And we remember the Gadarene demoniac. He had thousands. So the God solution, deliverance. A big solution to many, many, if not most all, problems in Christians' lives. So whether you believe or hear me or not, I come here with love and desire to see God's captives get free and they are God's people. Yes, they are. But there's problems, and you understand, I hope, what I'm saying. So I say to you again, peace.